It's Monday Night Sports Talk on the AirNetwork.net. Welcome to it. Spring just around the corner. NCAA basketball brackets will be discussed. Dairy Queen giving away free ice cream cones in observance of their 75th anniversary. And we got a whole bunch of stuff to talk about tonight. By the way, Chad States is on hiatus, through the spring because he is a baseball coach. So let us welcome in tonight for the first time, Jeffrey Speck from Huntington, Pennsylvania. Jeffrey, glad to have you along on Sports Talk tonight.
Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here.
All right. He's one of our listeners, Dave Shannon in Altoona, Jimmy Ty in Johnstown. How are you guys doing tonight, Dave and Jimmy?
Just absolutely beautiful. I felt like that guy in that parka in the neighborhood in the one commercial where he comes out and he stumbles like through the hedges and stuff, and he goes, "It was white.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was cold. Get the man a hamburger."
Oh, my God.
Springtime's here, Greg.
Well, hey, tonight you guys are, you'll be able to stop by Dairy Queen, as I mentioned. I just had to throw that out. I know Jeff loves his ice cream. He's already gotten his, by the way, guys. So get yours at Dairy Queen. Hey, meanwhile, lots of excitement abounds tonight as we talk about the NCAA basketball tournament about to get underway, actually with the early rounds, and the, play-ins would be happening tomorrow. And I was just looking at this. By the way, Chad State says hi. He won't be able to join us because of Teener League Baseball, which gets underway shortly. But he sent in his brackets, Dave, Jeff, and Jimmy. And it's interesting as I go over his brackets here. Obviously, we know in the Midwest, Kentucky got the number 1 seed. Wisconsin got the seed number 1 in the West. It was Villanova, surprisingly, getting the top shelf in the East. And then in the South, it's all Duke. But as I look at his Final Four, I'm kind of intrigued here. I see Kentucky taking on Arizona in the semis, and then Virginia taking on Gonzaga in the other semi, and Kentucky defeating, Virginia. Let me ask you first, Jeff, as you are a new guest or a new host, what's your bracket look like, and who do you think will win this thing?
Well, the most fun I have, though, is waiting to see which number 12 is going to bump off a number 5 early on, because that just happens nowadays. And I think I think Stephen F. Austin, they oust Utah in the first round, and probably BYU. I look for them to upset Xavier.
So those are some of your bracket busters already.
Yeah, I think that's what goes down early on in my Final Four. I got Kentucky out of the Midwest, Arizona out of the West, then Villanova out of the East, and Iowa State out of the South.
Iowa State, wow, that's crazy, Jimmy. What's yours look like at this point?
Wisconsin out of the West, Kentucky out of the East. I mean, out of the Midwest. I have Villanova, and I'm going to take Duke in my championship game. Surprisingly, I have Kentucky being upsetted by Wisconsin, so it'll be Wisconsin against Duke, and I have Wisconsin winning the whole thing.
So you see Wisconsin going obviously rather deep into this thing. Wow.
But I will say my sleeper picks, you have to watch out for Eastern Washington University.
Okay.
They're a 13th seed. They're going to be taking on Georgetown in the first round, and if they get past Georgetown, they'll take on who is it? I think it's Valparaiso.
Yeah.
They'll take on Valparaiso. So watch out for Eastern Washington University and the 12-5 ups that I have looking at Buffalo over University of West Virginia.
All right. Well, see, you're making my head hurt already here. You're making my head hurt.
Bobby Huggins.
Yeah.
You're picking the other Bobby.
Hey,
Bobby
Dave,
Hurley.
let me ask you real quick, and I know that you're a busy man, and you're not going to be able to watch this whole thing, but when it's all said and done, who do you think prevails through this whole tournament? Because we've got about 3 weeks of basketball here now.
Yes.
So who do you think comes out on top? And who are some of the sleepers that you might have heard of?
Gee whiz, I've heard what was the one you said, Jeff? Your 12-5?
Yeah, who was that 12-5?
Well, I've got Stephen S. Austin and BYU looking to be number 12 winners.
Okay. And I've heard the Stephen F. Austin one mentioned a couple of times in the different shows, the bracketology type shows that aired after the selection Sunday. So, those are two that are definitely in there. I've seen various Final Fours. all of which end up, the bottom line is all of which end up with Kentucky.
Yeah.
Being the one that emerges from the tournament with the crown. And I tell you what, if they did not stumble at this point, and granted there's a lot of pressure when you've been winning the whole way through, but to be honest with you, they won the whole way through because they're just that good.
That good, yeah. And Kentucky faces either Manhattan or Hampton, who has to play in tomorrow, number 16 seed. Yeah, and I know that, Calipari's not going to let these guys let down, and that just going to be sort of like reminiscent of a battle that, of course, nobody shows up except for Kentucky with the big guns. And so I don't think, as I look through my bracket, I had actually thought that Arizona might be able to come out of there a winner, but then I forgot Kentucky's right there, and they're going to have to face Kentucky in the semis. So I'm going with Kentucky. I mean, that's what I'm sticking to. But some of the bracket busters, North Florida impresses me. I don't know. Have you seen North Florida play at all, Jeffrey, or maybe
that
Jimmy?
Is one,
Go ahead,
Jeff. Have not seen North Florida, but once again, hey, they've been getting a little bit of press today with all the bracketology shows.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and these are the kind of teams that kind of scare you because if you look through your bracket, one of these teams, again, as we've seen in the past with those schools like Butler and Belmont and Gonzaga, by the way, who Chad has Gonzaga
Valparaiso.
actually. Yeah, Valparaiso.
Yeah.
These guys come out because, they're sort of like coming out with guns blaring. And, they're looking for upsets. So I'm looking at a couple of upsets here. So when I mention these sleepers, got to keep in mind there are some schools that just want to get on the map. And, and this puts them on the map. They even win one or two games. I mean, nobody gets on the map by playing a play-in game like Robert Morris against North Florida. But if they go to any extent and somebody beats Duke or plays with Duke, they look pretty good. So
a few years ago, Duke was the number 2 seed.
Right.
Lehigh University was a number 15 seed.
The Engineers, yeah.
And what happened? Lehigh University beat Duke. Mm-hmm. So it could be an upset any day of the week.
Oh, we've seen Bucknell prevail in some games in the past. Hey, Dave, I was
nobody knew about Butler.
Right.
Nobody knew about Butler, and then all of a sudden Butler keeps winning, and now everybody's like, oh, Butler's such a great team back like 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
I'll tell you another team to keep an eye on, I think, guys, is VCU.
VCU, yeah.
Yeah, Shaka Smart is he's one of those amazing coaches. I watched them play a game there back in early January, a conference game, at which point VCU did not look that good. And as the season went on, he's that type of coach. I think he gears his coaching and his practices toward this time of year, and they peak out once they get to the tournament rather than peaking at some other point during the season. So look for VCU to maybe make a little noise, Sweet 16 stuff.
Exactly.
Well,
Go ahead.
And there is a Johnstown connection in the NCAA tournament.
Okay, who would that be,
team?
Jimmy?
Arizona's assistant coach, Emmanuel Book Richardson, was the point guard for Pitt Johnstown back in 1997 through 1999.
Oh, cool.
Man, where do you come up with it? He's digging deep again.
You know why?
Emmanuel Book Richardson, right now he's in the University of Pittsburgh Johnstown Hall of Fame. He got inducted last year in the Hall of Fame. Pitt Johnstown alum for University of Arizona. You got to say, go Wildcats because of that connection here in Johnstown.
I say go Wildcats anyway because I like Sean Miller, of course, from Pittsburgh area. So, I mean, I'd like to see those guys do well. TheAirNetwork.net, of course, is a place to be tonight for Monday Night Sports Talk. Jeff Speck out of Huntington, Dave Shannon, Altoona, Jimmy Ty live from Johnstown, Greg Banks in the studio, talking about the NCAA tournament. Let me ask this question, Jeff, to you. Was Temple one of the schools that you thought got snubbed this year in the tournament? Was Temple one of those?
Yeah, but I look at these teams who didn't make it in that would actually have an impact. I don't know. I get a strange feeling on that. I'm more interested in who's going to step up and stop Kentucky. I mean, they are vulnerable. They had a few games there that a couple of them went to overtime, and they're vulnerable. But it's going to take someone that can come down and shoot some, get hot with a 3-point shot, and be able to match up well. And there might be 3 or 4 teams that might be able to do that. And Temple and such, it'd be nice to get in, but those are the breaks, and what impact would some of these teams that got snubbed really have?
Well, there are some schools there I see, Jimmy, they got in, like UCLA. How did UCLA get in? You had mentioned Utah a couple weeks ago as one of those teams that might do something in this thing, and Chad has them in his bracket going into maybe the third round here, at least that deep against Duke until Duke beats them. But having said that, how does a school like UCLA get involved in this thing when, quite frankly, they haven't even shown up in their own conferences?
Their name. Because of who they are. It's UCLA. You don't look at UCLA for UCLA football or UCLA baseball.
It's always been
basketball. People know basketball because of John Wooden. They're in the tournament because of their name. It was back in, I believe it was December, they played Kentucky. Mm-hmm. They had 7 points at halftime. 7 points at halftime against Kentucky.
Right.
Now, how can a team, the biggest win they have in their conference, road win, was against Stanford. And Stanford's not a good team. Stanford's not in the NCAAs.
Right.
I have no idea how a team like UCLA is in just because of their name. You should put a team in like Temple University.
Right.
Or another team, Colorado State.
Yes. Yeah, there's one that got kind of like snubbed as well. Yeah, no doubt. So, having looked at
By
this...
the way, Jimmy, you've now ruined any potential for a future interview with Garrett Cole.
Yeah,
you're off Garrett Cole's interview list.
Yeah, well, that wasn't going to happen anyhow. Because he's going to Philadelphia, man. They're shipping him down to the Phillies. Yeah, we're hoping for the best, Jimmy. Hey, here's Albany, Dave. Now, I see Albany on this thing, and I keep thinking back to Roger Weiland, our good friend from up there in that area. And, of course, they in the NEC. What's the deal? Or is that who's that plays St. Francis?
That was a football type affiliation.
Oh,
you know,
was it?
It's kind of interesting how this has gone into the smaller D1 schools.
Yeah.
And that they end up joining up with a conference where not every school has a football team.
Okay.
And their conference does not. So, but the good news is Roger, as far as I know, is still around with the Great Danes and will,
probably be broadcasting those games if they have the rights to them, maybe.
Huh? Well, no, you always, as a participating team, you do have broadcast rights at the NCAA tournament.
Okay, good for him.
So Roger will be making a trip.
Well, thank goodness, because I like to see my old buddy do well, as always. But I'm looking at some of these schools real quick. You mentioned North Dakota State. They're at the bottom of the rung. There's UAB that I remember from years ago. My surprise, Jimmy, and you can talk a little bit about this, and then Jeff, SMU showed up yesterday, and they look very, very wicked. With who is their coach there, Larry Brown?
Larry Brown.
Yeah, what do you think their chances are in this thing?
Well, they have a 27-6 record. They're first in the American Conference.
Mm-hmm.
They have an outstanding guard by the name of Ryan Manuel. He's a senior for them, who can flat out score the basketball.
Right.
I can see them up. No, I'm not going to see upsetting because UCLA should not be there as an 11 seed, but I can see them going to at least the Sweet 16.
Okay. I'll take that. What do you think, Jeff? SMU in the fray this year.
SMU is good. The team that I think could be a surprise, and that is if they can get healthy and stay healthy, is Virginia. I actually had them as the number 1 seed. They were the only number 1 that I missed out on. They dropped to a number 2, but then again, I don't know if I want them because I've tuned into a couple of their games this year, and it's been 8-10 points most of the way through the first half. So I don't know if I want to see that kind of basketball played in the NCAA tournament, but I think they could make a little noise healthy.
Okay, hey, well, we're live tonight, folks, and if you'd like to call us, give us your brackets or maybe some of the sleepers, or who do you think is going to bust the bracket tonight? Our number is 814-619-4286. That's 814-619-4286. Monday Night Sports Talk. Greg Banks in the studio. Dave Shannon, Altoona, Jeff Speck in Huntington, and Jimmy Ty in Johnstown. Let me kick this around, Jimmy. You're a Big Pit alum. They make it to the NIT. What are their chances going past the second or third round this year in the NIT? How do you think Pitt will fare?
They play George Washington in the first round of NIT.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about George Washington, but if Jamel Artis and James Robinson show up to play, I can see them going the whole way to Madison Square Garden. But them two players for University of Pittsburgh have to show up.
Right, okay.
Just like what they did when they showed up against Notre Dame, against Syracuse, against Carolina. They have to show up and play basketball. If them two players do not show up, they have no shot. That Robinson and Artis is the Pitt basketball team, period.
Hey, Jeff and Dave, you can jump in there if you like first, but it looks like pretty prominent field in the NIT this year. Those teams that were kind of snubbed this year, they're loaded in the NIT. What do you think Pitt's chances are? And then Jeff.
I think I'll tell you what. There's a part of me that says that because it's not the tournament they wanted to be in, that they will not actually end up getting past the second round, say.
Yeah.
They may win the first round just by default, but not making it past the second round. I'm so disappointed in that team, and, I've come to expect a lot out of Pitt, and I'm sure the fan base has also. I'll be curious. I think they could get knocked out early. I don't know that they will advance. And as Jimmy said, it depends which one of those two guys show up.
Yeah, exactly.
In any particular game.
What do you think, Dave? Go ahead, Jimmy.
If Pitt wins, let's say against George Washington, they'll play the winner of Temple Bucknell.
Oh, okay. Okay, that could be a nice little matchup. Huh?
Nice little Pennsylvania matchup right there.
Looking forward to that. What's your thoughts on that, Jeff? And then we'll wrap it up.
I sit here in my Pitt T-shirt and Pitt hoodie on, so that's my team, and I'll tell you, what a disappointment. I mean, the offense this year has been okay, but defense just pitiful, awful, whatever you want to call it. And what has propelled Pitt all those years into the NCAA tournament? No one wanted to play Pitt because of their defense. This year, everyone wants to play Pitt because of their defense.
Yeah, their defense really, truly has not shown up this year. And Dave even mentioned last week on the show that, in many ways, if you look at Jamie Dixon, he doesn't look like he's full of fire anymore. I mean, does that look similar to what we're talking about, Jeff?
I have thoughts on that, and I blame it all on the ACC and that switch. I think I've lost excitement for the game. How do you bust up a conference like the Big East, who is hands down the best, and now you've got the ACC? Not a good fit. Maybe that's hurting some recruiting opportunities also. Yeah. Look at poor UConn now in the AA.
Oh yeah.
They were the national champions last year.
Yeah, and look where they're at this year.
Yeah, and I look at some of these conferences like the Atlantic 10, or like you mentioned, the conference that Connecticut's in, man. I'm just not. I'm thinking they should merge or something.
Well, to me, Big East, what a shame. Well, the best, hands down, no more.
All right. Hey, we'll talk more sports coming up on Monday Night Sports Talk here on the airnetwork.net. Pick us up on the online at www.theairnetwork.net or via TuneIn, that little nifty little app you can download on your smartphone, any kind of mobile device. And you can call 814-619-4286, 814-619-4286. We'll be back in a minute with Jeff Speck, Dave Shannon, Jimmy Ty, and yours truly, Greg Banks, here on the airnetwork.net. Stick around.
Hey, Frank, some of us are going out for lunch. Want to join?
No, thanks. I won't be able to make it for a while. My son's heading to a 4-year university this fall, and I'm watching every penny I can to help him with tuition.
Yeah, that can be so expensive. My daughter decided to go to Pennsylvania Highlands Community College. She'll earn her associate degree in 2 years before transferring to earn her bachelor's. I'll be able to save thousands by her attending Penn Highlands first.
Pennsylvania Highlands, really? My son is stuck on attending a 4-year university right away, far from home.
My daughter was the same until I explained to her that she'd end up with the same degree and far less debt. I don't want to see her starting out her adult life with a lot of debt. Penn Highlands just made the most sense. So, enjoy lunch.
Hey, wait for me.
I thought you couldn't afford to eat out.
That was before you mentioned Penn Highlands. How do I find out how to get my son enrolled?
I'll fill you in over lunch, but start by visiting Pennsylvania Highlands online at pennhighlands.edu.
If you're searching for a used vehicle, or perhaps a used boat for a leisurely trip on the lake, find them today online at pennswoods.net. From things for sale or things to buy, the free classifieds at pennswoods.net have it all. From houses for sale, apartments for rent, or even things to trade, pennswoods.net is the region's largest site for free classifieds. Check it out today and make money or save money at pennswoods.net.
The Burns Law Firm is an experienced law firm located at 104 South Center Street in Evansburg, just steps away from the Cambria County Courthouse. Attorney Tim Burns and his staff will provide you with professional expertise in DUI, family law, personal injury claims, plus other areas of law at reasonable rates and fees. Contact Attorney Tim Burns for a consultation by calling 814-471-1701 or online at www.attytimburns.com for more information.
It's AirNetwork.net. Glad to have you along on Monday Night Sports Talk Live. Jeff Speck from Huntington, Dave Shannon, Altoona, Jimmy Ty coming live from Johnstown. I am Greg Banks in the studio, and we were talking about the NCAA, the brackets, the NIT, and all that great stuff. And even though I'm not a great basketball fan, I do remember, Jeff, you playing in bitty basketball way back when at the Huntington Community Center.
And I'll tell you, those shorts, if you could get some of those throwback shorts and get me in those today, man, what a sight.
Yeah, you know what? Michigan busted up that deal, don't you think, years ago, man? They said, we're not wearing shorts like this anymore. Woo, buddy. But I do remember the fun times at Huntington Community Center, Ted Iron and all the whole gang there, so a big shout out to them. Hey, let's talk about the good old days. Big Ben, man, and the records that he's breaking throughout his career. Some of the mishaps he's had, but I think he's been forgiven for those. He has just signed another contract extension for 5 years as a Pittsburgh Steeler. Jimmy, your thoughts on Big Ben and his 5-year contract, then we'll go round robin with Dave and then Jeff. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I hope he brings us another Super Bowl to us because we have 5 more years for this, and by the time he gets out of his contract, he'll be 38 years old. That's going to be an old quarterback.
Yeah.
We need to get a Super Bowl within the next 2 years. It's a big contract. He's going to be a Pittsburgher for life. He'll be like another Terry Bradshaw, and he'll be remembered as a Terry Bradshaw for this generation.
Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. Dave, what's your thoughts on that?
This generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree that it has to. I really think Ben will have 3 years that he'll be,
healthy.
Still healthy. And so the last 2 years of those contract years are just throwaways. I do think it was important to do this, though, because no attention has been paid on the quarterback side during drafts or anything else that's been going on. And they've rolled a lot of faith and their future into Ben. So they had to make this move if they wanted to remain competitive. And they did. So we'll see how it plays out. But I think he needs to get it done within about a 3-year span.
Yeah.
Look for them to make some noise somewhere along the way and pick up a quarterback. And hopefully, I got to be honest with you, did anybody think that Ben Roethlisberger coming out of college was going to be this type of player? You got to hope that they're going to be able to do it again. I mean, Bradshaw, too.
Yeah.
I mean, what? Southwest Louisiana, right?
Well, Louisiana Tech or one of those.
Or Louisiana
small schools
Tech,
down there. Yeah. And there, again, Jeff, here is Big Ben, who came out of, what was it, Ohio, I think it was? Or
Miami,
Ohio.
Miami, yeah.
Yeah, so what's your thoughts on this contract, Jeff? Because as I look this over, he's going to earn $35 million this year and then $53 million in the first 2 years of the deal. Now, he comes in at $99 million total. However, I believe that last contract was $102, so does that say he left any money on the table? Maybe they can get some other players.
Well, this contract can balloon up to $108 million all said and done with performance. And hey, this is a no-brainer. No big surprise that this was going to happen. Right. My only concern is, when do you bring the understudy in? When do you get that guy in there who we're going to hand the baton off to? Because at 5 years. If we do get that 3 years out of him, boy, that'll be great. But at what point do the Steelers have to get serious about who's the next Big Ben?
Well, we talked about that before.
They have to do it next year,
Taj
Jeff.
Boyd.
Oh, yeah.
Taj Boyd. They just signed the Clemson star last year, who used to throw to Martavis Bryant in college by the name of Taj Boyd.
All right.
So he could be they could hand him the baton because Gronkowski's getting up there in age.
Well, yeah, Gronkowski's not your backup unnecessarily,
No.
You know what I'm saying? And Taj Boyd, Jimmy, I don't know. I still have feelings about that because how comes he's not a real starter in the NFL even though he's been out of college for a few years? You know what I mean? They just have to wait and maybe find somebody in the draft this year. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they'll find somebody down in the lower tier that they can bring up and they can groom him and have him ready to, of course, take over when Big Ben obviously decides to retire. The guy's 33 now, and as you said, he'll be 38 when this contract's over. And I have a feeling, like Dave said, he's only going to see about 3 years of that contract at best, maybe 4 if he's pushing it. So it should be interesting. Go ahead.
But let's not forget the Steelers also signed D'Angelo Williams as a backup to Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, I saw that.
Which I think that was a good signing for Pittsburgh because, yes, Williams is sort of injury prone.
Yeah.
But when he's not injury prone, he can give you at least 7 to 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, but I have a feeling, like Dave says, you're renting these guys. Sometimes whenever you're picking them up, it's sort of like in baseball, sort of like a rent-a-center. You get him one and done. Sort of like Russell Martin and A.J. Burnett in the case of the Pirates. Jeff, your thoughts on the Steelers now. What is it they need to do in this draft to solidify the line or perhaps obviously the defense? Because, as we mentioned before, Troy's got to be on his way out. I mean, either they're going to kick him out or he's going to just leave, along with Ike Taylor.
To me, the key to a healthy Ben Roethlisberger is making sure that he's got the protection, has the time, because at 33 years old, you don't want to be taking a pounding and looking up at the sky very often.
Oh, exactly.
And, now we're doing a better job. We're getting that ball out of there a little more quickly, but, boy, that's where I'd be putting some bank on is making sure that we have the protection up front that's going to keep Ben healthy.
Yeah, and Ben certainly was on his back a few more times that I recall last year than ever before. Yep. And, thank God he didn't get injured. Let me ask you this real quick, Dave. Eagles taking a big gamble. I mean, they're picking up guys everywhere throughout the NFL. Some of these are surprises. Tim Tebow's in camp today, understand, throwing for Chip. I mean, what's going on in Philadelphia? Let's talk a little bit about that again.
Well, I think that's an effort by Chip to go ahead and remake that franchise. There were some things, he was there, he had a chance to look at it, things he didn't like, and he thought he could put together a much better situation. Yeah. We'll see how that plays out, over the course of a season. But he has a group of guys together now that he feels can take Philadelphia to the next level. It's been so disappointing to see the Eagles year after year be around the top. Mm-hmm. It was just a couple of years ago, I think they had that 500 type season.
Yeah.
But they're always a part of the conversation. And it's kind of tough to do that, too, because you're in the East and you're always in competition with the Giants and the Cowboys year after year. And I don't mean to slight the Redskins, but I'm slighting the Redskins. It seems as though, that's what he's after. I loved what Jimmy said last week being in Philly, that they're going to change the name of the team from the Eagles to the Ducks,
Ducks, yeah.
And they have the right colors too, it's like they got some green in there and, change that white.
Like Eagles.
Yeah. There you go.
Like wings.
Well, what's strange is that whole Nick Foles and Sam Bradford trade, because Jeff, I can't remember Bradford actually playing a whole season, even with all the money he was making off of the Rams. I mean, do you recall him playing a whole season?
No, and the Philadelphia thing just baffles me because I didn't think they were that far off of hitting it. I know there's got to be frustration, but boy, this is all on Chip's shoulders now. I mean, he's designed it the way he wants it, and he can't blame it on anyone else if it isn't up from here.
Hey, Jimmy, at least they have a couple of guys, studs, that they can hand the ball off. Talk a little bit about that now. They've got some running backs in the fold.
Ryan Matthews, injury prone. Mm-hmm. He hasn't played a whole season since he's been in the NFL for the Chargers. DeMarco Murray had one good season, so let's see how he does this year in chip ball. That's what I call it, like the fast chip ball.
Yeah.
And then Darren Sproles as your speed back. I would rather get the ball off to Darren Sproles than to DeMarco Murray because Murray does fumble the ball a lot.
Well, now, getting rid of Shady, is it hurt as bad now bringing in those two guys that you just mentioned, Murray and Sproles?
No, I don't think it hurts. I think, honestly, Buffalo got the better of the deal because, honestly, McCoy wanted out of Philadelphia, even though he played his whole football career in Pennsylvania, in Harrisburg, at Pitt, and then at the Eagles. A change of scenery, going to Buffalo, plays for Rex Ryan. I think that's a good fit for LaShawn McCoy.
Yeah.
The way that Chip's running his offense, speed that they don't huddle, that makes the running backs tired.
Yeah.
But I honestly think that Buffalo got the better of the deal out of that, in my honest opinion.
But let me ask you this, starting with Dave, and then we'll go to Jeff and then Jimmy. Wasn't this the craziest free agency event ever that you can recall? First of all, several players announcing prior to the deadline where they were going, almost like a certainty. And isn't there an NFL law or rule or something, Jeff, that says you can't actually announce prior to the deadline, which was, last Tuesday, I think it was?
Yeah, that was my assumption. And I guess, of course, I watch the Steelers like most people around here and watch what they're doing. And they're eerily quiet during the free agency period. Now, you got the Kiesel news and some other news that I didn't see that one coming. I must have been totally out of the loop on Kiesel hanging up. But this has been crazy. But the Steelers laying back. I guess they're wrapping it all up in Big Ben.
Yeah, well, they never get really involved in free agency. No. And the two big stories were Kiesel and Worlds, by the way, coming out of Pittsburgh, Dave. But wasn't it kind of crazy during that period of time? Because we were talking about guys who had already announced. But here's the deal, and it could be a gray area. Does the NFL need to enforce their rules that these cannot be announced, even if it's through their agents?
Since when did the NFL start enforcing any rules that they have? This would be a big turn for Roger Goodell.
Yeah, that's true, too.
I don't see, to be honest with you, free agency is, that's the type of thing. I don't necessarily see that announcing ahead of time as any kind of deterrent to what's going on at all.
Okay.
And I think it may be the kind of thing, too, where the NFL may like that because it may inspire a team that thought they had a player locked in,
like
and
Frank
they come
Gore going to Philadelphia.
That this type of thing changes the dynamic, and I don't think they're going to be too concerned about that. I think it makes it actually for the NFL a little more exciting, and maybe get some teams off their duff to say, "Wait a minute, I want that guy." So I don't think they would do anything about trying to make sure they enforce that, just like they've done with a few other things.
Yeah, I'm sure. It seems like they only want to enforce those things where they can fine people and make some additional money. Of course, it goes to charity, but obviously that just seemed to be a real strange occurrence this year in free agency. This, by the way, is Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. I'm Greg Banks in the studio. Jeff Speck joining us for the first time from Huntington. Dave Shannon, Altoona, and Jimmy Ty in Johnstown. Hey, we've got baseball season, which is approaching rather quickly, and I actually got a chance to watch a little bit of baseball yesterday, Dave. You got to be, like I am, somewhat excited, and let me do this real quick, especially because I saw some things that I was really amazed at, and Sterling Marte was one of them, and Worley was another one. We'll talk about that coming up next here on the Monday night edition of Monday Night Sports Talk, coming up next here on the airnetwork.net. Stick around.
Bob Steiner, 4 miles east of Huntington on Route 22, is keeping it fresh daily with great food at a great value for family and friends in a fun atmosphere. From their fresh-cut French fries, home-baked pies, and their home-style cooking, Top Steiner is the #1 destination for many hungry appetites. Stop by Top Steiner for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and great service 7 days a week. Top Steiner, east of Huntington on Route 22 for excellent service and delicious home cooking at a great value every day.
I'm coming home. What does sacrifice mean to you? Is it giving up your time and energy to keep America safe? Is it putting yourself in harm's way to protect our nation's way of life? No? Then maybe it's giving up that third latte to take care of the heroes that do.
The VFW makes it easy to help. Just call 1-855-9-HELP-VET. That's 855-9-HELP-VET.
The VFW. No one does more for veterans.
This message brought to you by the Huntington VFW Post 1754 on Penn Street. Restore the luster of your home or business now by calling Ted's Painting and Drywall at 814-641-0479. Ted's Painting and Drywall does quality exterior and interior painting, staining, faux finishing, trim work, and wall repair. Plus, Ted's Painting and Drywall can remove wallpaper and finish drywall for one room or the whole house. Ted's Painting and Drywall, a licensed contractor offering a 20% discount to seniors and 35% discount to churches. Book your work now at Ted's Painting and Drywall. Call 641-0479. Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. We do it every Monday night, by the way, 7 to 8 p.m. live. You can always call us. 814-619-4286 is our number. We'll put you on the air live with Jeff Speck, Dave Shannon, and Jimmy Ty, and yours truly, Greg Banks. Again, that's 814-619-4286. We'll talk about anything. You can change the subject. It doesn't have to be about what we're talking about. We're just a bunch of guys sticking around, drinking a few beers, and having a good time. Well, okay, we're just having a good time. We're not drinking beers. But I thought that would be cool to say to a guy sitting in his man cave somewhere who's drinking a beer right now or eating a Dairy Queen ice cream cone, Jeff Speck. You know, so, hey, I want
Jeff,
you
you're going to take a beating over that,
Jeff
aren't you?
already got his.
ice cream.
Hey, if you get on Jeff's Facebook page on Facebook, he will show you the food that he's having for the day. He will show you what he's going to eat when he gets to a restaurant. You know?
Yeah, that's an exciting life.
So, oh, man. Hey, listen, while I have Jeff on the line here, I have to ask this question. The 9th Street Deli, I used to go in there last year, get the subs. They tell me they changed that over. Did somebody else take that over, and is it doing well?
It's now Big Will's Chill and Grill.
Big
Good luck
Will's.
Monday.
Yeah.
Monday is a burger for $1.
Woo!
North fries 75 cents.
No kidding.
Count me in.
You've been there.
Wow.
Been there, done that too.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking. I figured he would know that, guys. Okay.
Yeah,
Hey,
good call.
Pirate spring training yesterday. I had a chance to kind of tune in and watch a little bit of the game. I'm impressed, first of all, with Worley, who pitched 4 scoreless innings yesterday for the Pirates. Many are saying that, Dave, he should be starting this year, because I think last week we all agreed that maybe Garrett Cole would probably start. But what's your impression of what you saw yesterday? Then we'll go to Jeff and Jimmy.
Well, I'm still going to stick with the Garrett Cole as your opening day starter. But
Okay.
That being said, Vance Worley competing for a starting role. And we were talking about this during the break, Jimmy and I. And the fact of the matter is that I don't see that Jeff Locke, unless he does something here toward the end of spring training. I was so impressed. Vance Worley came in really prepared for spring training. He's lost some weight.
Yeah.
He had real good control yesterday. It was very impressive during his outing. And I think he wants that. And to be honest with you, until I can see that Jeff Locke has straightened himself out, I think it's a good idea for him to be working out of the bullpen.
Okay, yeah. So, we talked about the starting pitchers last week about the rotation. Jimmy, I'll go to you on this and then go to Jeff and ask him a question. But regarding that pitching rotation, did we say Coles, Worley, and who else did we include the other 3?
AJ Burnett.
Obviously.
Yeah.
And was it
Charlie
Morton?
Charlie Morton.
Okay.
Charlie Morton.
Okay.
Charlie Morton. Yeah.
So you're saying that if you had to bring in a 5th starter, then Dave, that it would be Locke then, or do we have somebody else out there that's kind of other than Worley? I mean,
at this particular point,
because I'm thinking again, Coles, Worley, we got AJ, and we've got Charlie. Those are 4. Liriano. Okay, that's who we forgot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
we forgot Liriano.
Yeah, so the bottom line is that I throw Jeff, if at all possible, into the bullpen until he works that out. There was a stretch there last year, Jimmy, maybe you can remind me, where Locke looked like he did get out of his funk, so to speak. But it only lasted for about a month, and he went back to being the bad he's like Jekyll and Hyde out there on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, last year he started out with the Pirates, and then he went to the minor leagues, pitched half the season in the minors. He came back. I think it was July?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I think it was July he came back, and he pitched great, had a lot of scoreless innings and wins and that, and then all of a sudden it was like, what happened to Jeff Locke?
Yeah.
And here comes here comes Rory coming in, who they picked off the free agent line or whatever they did, and he looked dominant. So you know that Rory wants that 5th start. Right now, he has a 3.0 ERA. Jeff Locke has a 3.60 ERA.
Okay.
So it's a sort of like a battle. Rory's whip is .83, where Jeff Locke's whip is 1.0.
Okay, let me ask Jeff real quick, because, Jeff, you're in that area of Huntington where there's a line of demarcation probably further east of you that they become Philly fans. You're still a Pirate fan, right?
Yeah, I'm a Pirate fan since Richie Hebner gave me a ball way back in the 70s.
Oh, okay, great. Well, let me ask you this, and then we'll kind of go round robin here. Starling Marte is just pounding the ball in spring training this year. Where does he land this year in the batting order, would you say? Where would you like to see him there? Because, here's a guy that you can really utilize, and he's doing well.
And I'm looking at him. I can see him very strong in the middle of the lineup, but I'll tell you, there's another guy. We talk about the mental part of it.
Yeah.
If Marte and Polanco get their heads on, I mean, they'll make. That's without a doubt to me going to be the best outfield.
Oh,
but I'll tell you, those two, they've got to get it upstairs. They've got to get it in their head, because that's what's going to carry them. And Polanco. I mean, let's face it, people are talking about him more than Aaron McCutcheon. Yeah. That's saying an awful lot.
Well, who do you have? Who do you have?
That's big time.
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
And I'll tell you, the guy that's impressed the heck out of me this year is Sanchez. I mean, I kind of gave up on that guy. He's throwing lasers down to second base. He's in there. What a battle that's going to be, seeing who they're going to keep back in that position.
He's battling
cranking it out at the plate, too.
Okay.
Oh, both he and Diaz and Sanchez are both having a phenomenal season. Who's the kid they brought in from the Yankees? Cervelli.
Yeah.
And then Chris Stewart, he's still hanging around. How many catchers are the Pirates going to carry? 2, 3? But, well, I'll tell you, Sanchez, to me, is just lighting it up this spring.
So we have some competition going on.
The other thing, did you notice he grew a beard so he looks like Russell Martin now?
Well, and to me, I think in that pitching rotation, the big thing that A.J. Burnett brings is not what he does on the mound, but what he does in the clubhouse. And getting Locke and those guys getting their heads on straight, because A.J. performs in this smaller market, and the bigger market, not so much.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to have a super influence there.
Well, Dave, getting back to that subject, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, you remember, as Jeff brings that up, that they referred to Burnett and Locke as Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
In his previous end of stint with the Pirates. And so maybe that's the guy that brings Jeff Locke around. That being said, I'm still a Vance Worley fan.
Okay.
Until Locke can show me that that AJ's been able to, hypnotize him or whatever it is that AJ does.
Well, let's get back to this batting order. Who leads off then for the Buccos this year? And where does Marte? Okay.
Marte.
That's what I was thinking.
Yep, Marte.
Yeah, Marte has to be the man.
Yeah, and I think if Polanco gets his act together, he's got the potential to be a great number 4 hitter.
Yeah.
I mean, if he can get power consistently, man, that would be great to see him hitting out of the number 4 slot.
What are we hearing about Alvarez at first base? I haven't heard much about him at all. I mean, he's got to be doing something, Jimmy. Is he doing anything down at camp to impress some people at all?
Well, he's batting .333 right now with 4 RBIs and 1 home run, but with 12 at bats. But it's spring training; you're not going to get reps as you do every game.
Right.
Plus, what did he tweak, Jimmy?
Was it his hamstring?
Hamstring.
I think that's what it is. Greg, he hasn't had a lot of time to be out there on the field yet.
Really?
I have heard a lot of people say that, boy, he's spent a lot of time working on his game. So hats off to the kid as far as that goes. We'll see if it comes out on the field, though.
Yeah, as I mentioned.
Even though the Pirates signed Francisco Corbelli this offseason, I can honestly see Tony Sanchez taking over at least by May, because he has the experience now with the organization. He knows how to catch all the Pirate pitchers except Burnett.
Yeah.
He was there last year with Cole. He was there with Liriano and Locke and Rory. I can honestly see Tony Sanchez
I was going to say,
taking over.
If he has a hot hand, Sanchez might be the guy that you go to begin
right
the
now,
season. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
He's batting .533 right now in spring training with 15 at-bats.
All right. Well, they say that when you're in camp, like down in Bradenton, if you want extra work, you just move around to different ball fields. Now, I know for a fact, having been down there and reported, sometimes the veterans leave camp after 1 o'clock, or if they don't have a game, they practice in the morning, they go about their business. Now, having said that, you've got a situation in New York where they're going to have to make a decision soon with A-Rod, because he's going around to every ball field getting in extra hits, and he's actually impressing the folks. They've got to make a decision. Is he going to stay as a DH, Dave, or are they going to let him play every day now? Speaking of baseball and A-Rod.
Yeah, I right now, if he would continue the pace that he's at as far as the what he's doing defensively, I don't see how you don't start him. I mean, you're throwing a lot of money down because of the contract.
Yeah.
So why not go ahead and take advantage of that? And, if the guy's really that concerned about and willing to spend the time to turn his game around, and I'll tell you what, that says a lot about the guy having a full season off and being able to come back and really look competitive again. So hey, I would take advantage of him and use him. If he's up on his defense, use him.
Jeff, he either has his competitive juices flowing, or we've got a problem here. What do you think about A-Rod?
Hey, he's there, and if he keeps performing at the level he's doing this spring, and the work ethic, who's going to get him on that?
Oh, I
mean, you got to put him on the field and run him till he breaks down.
Well, he went into camp early too, so I mean that and a lot of people kind of like said, well, but that's A-Rod. He's showing off, and maybe he is showing that he is, sort of like at this point, the stage of the game, that he does want to apologize and he wants to make up for lost time. So who knows? I mean, I'm not here to judge. Anyhow, it's Monday Night Sports Talk. Jeff Speck, Huntington, Dave Shannon, El Tuna, Jimmy Ty, live from Johnstown. Greg Banks in the studio. Let me ask you this. Today, Pete Rose talking to the baseball commissioner, the new commissioner, asking the commissioner to be reinstated. Jeff, we touched on this briefly a couple weeks ago. What's your thoughts on that? First of all, from Pete's side of the story, and then this new commissioner. Do you think this is going to happen now?
I certainly hope so. I, for one, will not go to the Baseball Hall of Fame because Charlie Hustle, he's not there.
Yeah.
I mean, how you can have this organization that, look at all baseball's been through, and there's been a whole heck of a lot worse than what this poor man's done. Mm-hmm. And to me, it's a joke that he's not there. It's a joke that he's not. What he did, totally wrong. But boy, when you look at the whole picture of baseball, it's peanuts.
Well, he's shown remorse, Jimmy. I mean, the fact of the matter is, I guess he has given an apology now. Do you think we just move on and get Charlie Hustle into the Hall of Fame, and then Dave?
They should put Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame. What, like Jeff said, what he did was wrong, but how many years ago was that?
Yeah.
Was it like 1989, 1988?
Yeah.
No, I was only in like 7th grade, 8th grade when that happened.
Exactly.
And you have like the steroid era, and McGuire and Sosa will never be in there, but there were worse things that happened.
Exactly.
In fact, the All-Star Game's going to be in Cincinnati this year.
Well,
guess who's going to be there?
Yeah.
Throwing out the first pitch.
Well, how can baseball allow like Mark McGuire to be in a dugout after what he's done, and Pete Rose can't, Dave? I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Because obviously somebody has given this guy forgiveness for something.
Yeah, no, I think it's time to move on. And what Pete did, although a true letter of the law was you don't gamble on it at all. He never gambled on the Reds games, which I think is important in the grand scheme of things, because ultimately you figure, well, if somebody's gambling and they're betting on their own team or betting against their own team, now you have something, a completely different animal, but there's no proof that he ever placed any bets when it came to the Cincinnati Reds, and I think it's just time to move on. We talked about forgiveness for Ben. How about forgiveness for Pete?
Yeah, I agree with that. Monday Night Sports Talk, the number to call, 814-619-4286. Jeff Speck, Huntington, Dave Shannon, El Tuna. We've got Jimmy Ty live in Johnstown, Greg Banks in the studio. Hey, Jeff, do you still collect baseball cards by any chance?
Boy, I wish I had some back that I had hooked up with clothespins on my bicycle.
Yeah, how about you? Yeah, I used to do that down at the creek. I used to do that at the bathhouse too, man, with the, my bike. Dave, do you collect them or Jimmy? Dave first?
No.
Okay,
Nope.
Jimmy?
I used to, but not anymore.
Okay, I just pulled out my collection the other day, by the way, and I got some nice rookie cards here. I was just wondering if you guys wanted to trade me, but it's all good. We'll talk about that coming up in the last segment here on Monday Night Sports Talk, live on the airnetwork.net. Stick around. Talking Penguins, a whole lot more up next on the airnetwork.net.
Confessions of a Potentially Perfect Parent, brought to you by AdoptUsKids.org.
Okay, here goes. I know more about cooking dinner for a party of 12 than I do about packing a lunch for a 12-year-old. I know kids like things like PB&J, pigs in a blanket. Oh, and fish sticks. They do love fish sticks. Fillets I get, but sticks? What part of the fish does the stick come from? I know I can read a cookbook that'll tell me how to make a red wine reduction, but where are the cookbooks that can teach me how to cut the crusts off bologna sandwiches? Oh, maybe we can compromise on mac and cheese. Can you make that with brie? Everybody likes brie, right?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to push your food around their plate. Call 1-888-200-4005 or visit AdoptUsKids.org for more information. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt Us Kids, and the Ad Council.
Need printing services done with quality, on time, and at a reasonable price? Then stop by Images Print Shop in downtown Huntington, where they can help you design and print brochures, business forms, business cards, newsletters, flyers, and so much more. Images Print Shop is your hometown print shop and web hosting service dedicated to excellent and quality service at affordable prices. See what Images Print Shop can do for you online at imagesprintshop.com or call us weekdays from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at 643-1796.
Kick off your appetite with great food from Original Italian Pizza in downtown Huntington, where Bearcat fans huddle up before and after the big game. OIP in downtown Huntington provides your taste buds with appetizers, dinners, pizzas, subs, and so much more. Stop by OIP in downtown Huntington for a sandwich, meal, and cold drinks 7 days a week, or call ahead for takeouts at 643-0665 or 643-0666. OIP in downtown Huntington with the best food and the lowest prices in town.
It's Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. Greg Banks in the studio, Jeff Speck, Huntington. We've got Dave Shannon live in Altoona, Jimmy Ty, by the way, in Johnstown. And by the way, Chad States is Keener League baseball coach, so he will no longer be able to join us. So we hopefully will have Jeff join us each Monday night from 7 to 8 so he can represent the Huntington Bearcats. And Jeff, just real quick, it'll be 50 years since that 1968 team?
1966.
66 team.
Yeah.
Mike Crone, Henry Green, Ben Harris, Kevin Black. I can go through a whole list. See, I was an alternate on that team that won the state championship in Huntington. And
man, you are old.
Yeah, I am very old.
Wow.
I was only 11 at that time, but here's the deal, and I'll leave it go at that. Those guys went on to win the state championship. The next year I made it full-time All-Stars, and we got beat in the regionals, I believe it was. We didn't even get to the states, but we made it to the regional. So you're involved in that real quick. What is it that you're going to be doing for that special occasion next year?
Well, that's one of those things. We've got the new season starting up here on the 11th of April, and we've got to start working on that for next year and hopefully get some kind of a reunion organized. That would be super to bring those guys back. And, of course, as you well know, we've got a two-time state champion from that team.
Oh, that's right, because Henry was a wrestling champion as well.
He was Huntington High's first state champion on the mats.
Yeah, didn't they have a reunion of some sort years ago? I remember those guys going to the Little League field down there at the creek.
Yeah, that sticks in my mind. That I don't know if that was the 35th or 40th or somewhere, but 50's a big one, and I think that'd be cool to get these little kids there with someone local that, hey, we did it, you can do it too.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah.
And hey, we'll be playing some baseball later on. The All-Stars for District 11 include Huntington, Mount Union, Somerset, and West Suburban there in Johnstown. So those are the four teams. So we'll be seeing you later on in the summer with some All-Star action.
Well, I'll look forward to it. Matter of fact, I'll be talking with you about maybe putting some of those games on the Air Network. So we'll talk about that. Meanwhile, Monday Night Sports Talk, Jeff Speck in Huntington, Dave Shannon Elton and Jimmy Ty in Johnstown. Greg Banks in the studio. Dave, I'm checking here. Headline says, frazzled Penguins lose cool and game to Red Wings 5-1. What's up with the Pens, man?
Well, that's what happens when your junior hockey coach, your junior hockey head coach, has
Johnson.
no control over his team. That was the most pathetic display. You know, I was ready. You know, we're talking about forgiveness seems to be an ongoing theme here. So I'm ready to give the guy some forgiveness because Saturday he comes out. He doesn't have Crosby. Malkin gets injured in the first period. And they end up playing a very respectable game. He mixes, he matches, he moves in the flow of the game. And I think, okay, well, you know, the guy's showing me something here.
And he had the kid in net that night, right? I mean, was Fleury on the ice or was a kid on the ice at that time?
Grace.
That was Grace.
Saturday, okay.
Grace.
Yeah. So I'm ready to forgive the guy. And then Sunday, he just throws it all away because I'm sorry. That is the head coach's responsibility to keep his team under control, and he had no control over his players at all. And it
no
just
discipline
kept
anywhere.
No, it just kept escalating throughout the course of the game. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm going to add one other little bit of a downside to that, and that is Sidney Crosby, you don't wear the C on your sweater just because it's cool and you're a really good player.
Well, the C stands for cool,
that, yeah, right. Part of having that C on your sweater is part of what you weren't doing yesterday, which was working with your teammates to keep them under control. Chris Kunitz, I have never seen Chris Kunitz in the penalty box for more time than what he was yesterday. And what that to me is Sidney Crosby. How many years have they played together? And that's, to me, Sidney has to sit down with Chris Kunitz and say, we're not going to do anything here if we keep doing this. And I think that they just totally lost focus. I mean, once they got to the 5-goal mark, they were shot. Once they were down. When the Red Wings got up to 5, it was just like, well, hell, we're going to blow all of it. Maybe they blew all their frustration out in one game, we can only hope. But I'll tell you what, to me, that's two things. I'm disappointed in Sid. And, of course, I've not been, you know, I've never had any expectations out of Johnston since about November.
And he's been telling us that, Jeff, every week. Go ahead, Jimmy.
With Chris Letang, he had a 10-minute major and a game misconduct.
I'd
like to know. Not for fighting, but for yelling at the referee. So he must have said something really nasty towards the ref to get a one-game misconduct because you don't see that too often, and that's Chris Letang doing that. Come on now.
But 65 minutes of penalty time, at least give me a fight. You know, jeez.
That was just a horribly out of control game, and as we all know, you know what rolls downhill, and the guy at the top of the hill is Johnston, and I'm sorry.
I'm just curious. Rutherford is going to keep him on, though, Dave. I mean, obviously, for the rest of the season, they're going to probably reevaluate this thing at the end. Where do you see this season ending for the Penguins? Seriously, as you look at the NHL this year, what is the end game for these guys this season? Because we talk about it ad nauseum every week, and, you know, they have their ups and downs.
I don't, bottom line is, we've talked about this too. Where's your goalie going into the postseason? Now, Fleury had a rough game yesterday, and he's entitled to one. The guy's been lights out, unconscious, whatever term you want to apply to him. And so I think, as I've said before, too, I hope he's not peaking too early when it comes to the Penguins. But if he would get back and continue to roll lights out into the playoffs, they might get to the semifinal round, in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But if he's not, they're out probably in the second round.
Jeff, do you follow the Penguins rather closely then throughout the season?
Not a big hockey fan, but I start picking it up this time of year now that high school basketball is pretty much over. And, this weekend, Saturday night and then yesterday, just embarrassing, tough to watch. And, second round, I think I'd be real happy if I were a Pens fan that they had made it that far.
Well, Jimmy, your impressions on the Penguins, you see the end game being maybe, as Dave said, getting maybe to the semis or, maybe not even that far. What do you think real quick?
If Fleury's hot, He has to stay hot through the playoffs. If not, they're going to be out in the first round.
Yeah, let's hope
Basically, that's how it is.
Let's hope he
It
hasn't
all
peaked
depends
yet.
on Fleury.
Yeah, let's hope he hasn't peaked yet. Hey, I want to give a shout out to Guy Godowski, named the Big Ten Hockey Coach of the Year. That's no big surprise. What a great guy he is. Joe Paterno nominated to go into the Pennsylvania Hall of Fame this year with other, I think there are 6 other deceased. I don't think he's not going to have a problem with that at all, getting into the Hall of Fame. And a shout-out to the Lady Mustangs of Portage High playing in high school's Final Four basketball tournament this week. Jeff, you are heading down to Hershey, right?
I will be there Friday and Saturday. Never miss it. Been to Hershey, BJC. Now we're back down at Hershey. I'll be there.
All right, well, wave at us, man. We know who you are. The guy holding the ice cream cone. Hey, Jeff Speck, thank you. Dave Shannon, thank you. And Joey Ty, thank you as well. We'll do it again next week. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, thank you very much, guys. Monday Night Sports Talk on the airnetwork.net. We'll do it again 7 to 8 next Monday night live. And meanwhile, check us out on demand on our website at www.theairnetwork.net.